It is indeed a privilege to have amongst us Dr. Vijay Saraswat ji, one of the foremost gifted scientists and accomplished researcher with more than 4 decades of experience, spanning several fields and areas in both basic and applied sciences of defense research. Apart from being a scientist, he has also been an innovator, technologist, and visionary. In addition to many awards, he was conferred Padma Shri in 1998 and Padma Bhushan in 2013. Thank you, sir, for kindly accepting our invitation to address the members of the chamber despite your busy schedule. The global economy in this new normal is gradually climbing out of a steep fall to which it had gone from April 2020. India is recovering much faster than what seemed possible. While the fall in GDP was as high as 23.9% in the April to June quarter, it was down only by 7.5% in June to September quarter, which is a remarkable improvement. The structural reforms by the central government for agricultural market, labor laws, and MSME are expected to provide good opportunities to create resilience in these sectors and to expand and flourish also. It is expected that Atmanirbhar Bharat will bring an uptake in the demand to gain momentum in the economic activities across all sectors, from metals and mining to manufacturing, auto, pharma, health, energy, infrastructure, construction, and leading services sector like ITES, health, hospitality, and tourism. The worst is over as the business community restarts economic activities. This was seen in the agriculture sector, where the production of kharif food grains expected to increase beyond the previous year's levels in 2021. In 2019-20, the total production of food grains was estimated at 296.7 million tons against 285.2 million tons in 1890. In industry too, for the month of October 2020, the quick estimates of index of industrial production with base of 2011-12 stands at 130.7, which is 116.1 in August and 88.4 in May, which was around 126 last year in October 2019, according to MOSPI December 2020. India's foreign exchange reserves rose to USD 579 billion as on 4th December 2020, offering a comfortable buffer for us after accelerating the pace of economic activity. For the first time since March, exports have recovered and clocked growth in September, and trade deficits have narrowed with exports recovering faster than imports. India has achieved the 500 billion milestone in FDI during the April to September period. According to the data from Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, the inflows during the period stood at 500.12 billion, proving India's credentials as safe and a key investment destination. Sir, you have spearheaded defense research for decades. India plans to spend 130 billion on military modernization in the next 5 years, as achieving self-reliance in defense production is a key target for the government of India. Demand requirements are huge in this sector, which has a big role to play in strategizing growth and making Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India successful. The micro and medium and small enterprise sector needs to be among the early drivers of economic recovery. With more than 11 crore people working in the MSME, it is hoped that the updated concept of MSMEs will further encourage growth of business in this sector. We feel that there should be more handholding from the government for this sector. Although the green shoots are being seen, still we have a long way to go. GDP for H1, that is April to September in 2021, is estimated to be 60.04 lakh crores as against 71.2 lakh crores during the corresponding period of the previous year, showing a contraction of 15% and as against a growth of 4.8% during the same period last year. Sir, under these current circumstances, we feel that recovery of the economy is more important than fueling growth. And with a three-pronged emphasis on manufacturing and exports, MSME growth, and employment generation. According to a report by the Union Finance Ministry, in the month of November 2020, India expanded stimulus measures to 15% of the economy to rescue companies and save jobs lost due to the COVID pandemic. Although this could widen the budget gap to 8% of the GDP in the year to March, more than double of the targeted 3.5, still it is the need of the hour. Education and technology has a huge role to play in this recovery phase. In this journey of transforming the economy, the Chamber would like to play the role of a facilitator for our members to take benefit from the huge opportunities, as also for the benefit of the Eastern region as a whole. With these few observations, may I now invite Dr. Vijay Kumar Saraswat ji to share his perspectives and enlighten us. Sir.
So very good afternoon, and my greetings to all, greetings to the President and all the members of the Chamber of Commerce, Eastern India. It has been always a pleasure to interact with all of you. I would like to touch upon today on what is the status of our economy and what is the strategy for economic growth in the new normal. To this extent, I would like to share my screen. I'll make a small presentation for about an hour. I'll try to share the screen. Let us see if I succeed. Hello.
Yeah, we can see your screen clearly, sir.
Okay, that's good. So we're talking about the strategies for economic growth in the new normal, and I put it this way, that it is expected that this pandemic which has happened will significantly affect the extant social behaviors, spending patterns, travel habits, supply chains, country independence, and service delivery models, with consequential impacts on lifestyles, markets, and the global economy. And that's why we are all talking about this as if it is a new normal where we are all. What is the impact of COVID-19 on the Indian economy? That is the point which we have to look at. India's real GDP growth deaccelerated to its lowest in over 6 years in the third quarter of 2019-20. The outbreak of the COVID-19 posed fresh challenges. Steps taken to contain spread, such as nationwide lockdown, have brought economic activity to a near standstill, with impacts on both consumption and investment. While Indian businesses, barring a few sectors, can possibly insulate themselves from the global supply chain disruptions caused by the outbreak, relatively lower reliance on intermediate imports, that exports to the COVID-19 infected nations could take a hit. In fact, there are the three major contributors to GDP. All of them have been affected. For example, the private consumption, the investment, and the external trade. These are all which have been actually been affected. This diagram shows a very clear understanding of how the entire economic system works in a circular flow of income diagram, where you have got 4 or 5 major stakeholders. For example, number 1 is the financial sector, number 2 is the businesses, number 3 is the government, then households, and of course the entire outside world. If you see in today's situation, the linkages are very clearly shown here. And the crosses are indicating that because of the COVID, most of them have run into problems. If you take the first one, which is the financial institution, they have run into problems because they were not getting any inputs. And as a result, they are not able to make any investment into the businesses. And since businesses got disrupted, there has been a labor layoffs, reduced hours. And then because of the business disruption, there was a domestic supply chain disruption. There is when there are no purchases being done by the government and the businesses are not able to pay taxes. So the government is getting affected and government has to provide money and salaries to the household. Households have to pay taxes. As a result, households are having problems. So their consumer spending is not taking place. That is bringing problems to the businesses. And if you look at the rest of the world, There is a demand shock, which is actually changing the behavior internationally. There are issues with respect to payment for imports and also payment for exports, and international supply chain also has been affected. So this is the total scenario of the economy as it has happened due to the kind of I would say impact which the COVID-19 has had. If you check sector wise, and if we plot on two terms, on the x-axis we have short-term liquidity impact, on the y-axis you have impact on the profitability, what we call as profitability in 2020. You have got low to high and low to high on the right side. If you see the rightmost corner, the sectors which are most affected both in terms of profitability as well as in the terms of liquidity impact are tourism, travel, airlines and retail. They are completely badly affected in both these segments. Others, of course, like financial services, where the profitability is affected high, the liquidity is less. For example, the pharma and medtech, they are in the low segment where profitability and liquidity both are less, construction, mechanical engineering. So there has been a significant impact of this coronavirus on some of the sectors, and that's why they are directly responsible for the economic situation what we have in the country. The impact of COVID-19 on different sectors also here again given, because Chamber of Commerce certainly deals with all of them and many of them are members from the industry here. For example, you take the apparel and textiles, which contributes about 2% to our GDP and employs about 45 million people. You will find that the impact in 2021 is medium to high. You take the auto sector, which contributes about 7 to 8% of our GDP, 40 million employees. It is very affected on a high term. Aviation and tourism, 11% of GDP, 43 million employment, again impact is high. Building and construction, 10%, impact is high. Retail, 10% of total Indian workforce works in the retail. The impact is medium. Education and skilling, what you were talking of, which contributes about 3%, impact is medium. Financial sector, which contributes about 9%, is about, again, medium. Food and agriculture, 15% is our GDP contribution, and 10% of the total workforce, Indian workforce is employed there. Their impact is medium. And the worst affected are the MSMEs, who are the largest contributor to our GDP, 30%, employing almost about 114 million people, are the worst affected as far as the impact of COVID is concerned. In terms of the economy, the estimated quarterly impact from the coronavirus on India's GDP growth year on year, that is quarter in the financial year 2020-21, this is quarter on quarter kind of change represented. And before the onset of the COVID itself, our economy was having kind of a problem, which was about change was 5.2%, and grossly by the time you came into quarter 4, it became 3.1%. And then in the first quarter of 2021, we have today minus 23% negative growth, and then you have minus 7.5 in the quarter 2 2021. So this is the kind of scenario as far as the GDP growth being negative. It is improving, but it is not gone to the positive side at all. What is the risk? In which direction the risk has tilted? A prolonged pandemic, extended first wave, or recurrent waves which can stifle the recovery. You have already seen that we have slightly improved, but now with this new mutation which has taken place, again, many international bodies have already started causing lockdown. Certain borders have been sealed. So this will all again have what is the secondary impact as far as the recovery is concerned. Continued trade tensions between the world's major trading partners. You know what is happening between US and China, and also we have problems with China today. So these are again trade tensions which are existing. Travel restrictions and plunging tourism. International tourist numbers expected to fall by about 57 to 78% according to UN WTO. Challenges to migrate workers and their families. ADB projects a 19.8% decline in remittances for its DMCs. Disruptions to foreign direct investment. While India has done reasonably well, but still And rising public and private sector debt could trigger financial instability during the financial stress and heightened uncertainty. So this is what is going to happen as far as the risk on the downside is concerned. Now, people are saying what is the kind of shape the recovery will take place. There are many speculations on this, but by and large, general opinion is that the most economists expect a U-shaped recovery pattern for GDP at best. While some have been talking about a V-shaped recovery would be quick and immediate and without bigger long-term effects, but in my opinion, it is not visible. A U-shaped recovery would imply lower short-term growth rates and thus more significant long-term effects. Significant effects in the medium term. The W pattern would incorporate multiple waves of partial recoveries and setbacks and lengthening the time to final recovery overall. And of course, if we I hope, God forbid, this doesn't happen, the L describes the severe recession with long-term effects on the whole economy, low GDP growth, and only a long-term return to pre-crisis conditions. So these four graphs are very clearly indicating, and general opinion is that we will have kind of a U type of a recovery. Some economists are very hopeful that in India, because of the fact that we are on this, our economy is agriculture born, and also agriculture has done well, and impact of COVID has been minimum in that area. So we may have something better than U, and we may be close to V. That is a kind of speculation many people have made. But manufacturing sector, the infrastructure sector, all of them are the major ones which are going to contribute. So we'll have to see how fast they are able to cover and how fast we are able to provide the kind of succor which is needed to these industries like SMEs and so on. If you see the three waves of COVID-19 response, crisis response, wave one is the immediate term, wave two is the medium term, and wave three is the long term. In the medium term, in the immediate term, our first strategy has to be that mobilize, secure the safety of your workforce, and establish response structure. In the medium term, we have to stabilize, that is, develop tactical responses to the challenges of navigating the COVID new normal, which is what we're talking of. We should learn to work now in this new normal condition, where we have to take care of the health, we have to take care of sanitation, we have to also make social distancing, we have to also see how the supply chains are being worked. So this new normal is what we have to get used to. And wave three is a long-term strategize, design a strategy for emerging stronger in the post-COVID-19. Organizations that successfully accelerate the speed with which they progress through the waves tend to emerge stronger. That is what we should do. So what are the imperatives as far as we are concerned, and how technology and other options can help us? Recovery of Indian economy will depend upon adoption of appropriate measures, policy support to unconventional strategies. Detailed understanding of the sector-wise business imperatives have to be done, and we should have a clear estimation of demand and supply position. Unless we have a very clear estimate on that, then in which area we have to focus, whether on the demand side or supply side, that becomes a problem. In fact, there are many times when the structure, when the kind of reforms government of India has suggested, then there were always opposing opinion, whether we should do it on supply side or on demand side. And a balance had to be maintained to make sure that nothing suffers. But certainly there is a choice which is very important and requires a very clear analysis in what direction we should go. Then we should take a status of the technology in India, how that's going to help. What existing capacity is further strengthening in initiatives, long-term and short-term. And what kind of foreign partnerships we can evolve in this case, depth and breadth of that. Leveraging international partnerships in important sectors is the time at this stage, because people will be willing to work together. One is agriculture, probably partnership with countries like Israel in some of the technologies in agriculture. MSMEs, companies, large manufacturing tie-ups with US and Japan under the Startup India condition. But as our Honorable Prime Minister has said, this is a time when self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, will be the new mantra to sail through this particular crisis. policy framework for mitigating the impact of the COVID-19 crisis is needed. What are the policy instruments that should be put in place? And Government of India is, of course, working in that direction. One of them is the health and the social protection. Another one is what is our monetary policy in this direction. Next one is what should be our fiscal policy framework, and what should be the new financial and regulatory policies. All of them will have to be tailored to give certain targeted outcomes. What are the outcomes we are looking at? We are looking at flattening the recession curve. We should not get into the L-shaped kind of recovery where recession will take place. And then we have this COVID, we have to flatten the human suffering curve. That is another one. And of course, the industry-wise, we have to flatten the bankruptcies curve. We should not allow more industries, more businesses to become bankrupt. So that is the way the policy framework has to be done. Now we will see in future slides whether India is moving in that direction or not. So as in the previous diagram, I had shown that the factors where the crosses were there. Now slowly we find that the same diagram, there are, instead of crosses, you are seeing some rights which are happening. For example, market functioning has restored. As a result, financial institutions are in a position to make investment in the business. Businesses are able to pay salaries and continuing pay wages and things like that. Businesses are able to now pay taxes to the government, and government is also able to make purchases, so the businesses are working well. Now, obviously, supply because the business is improving has also improved, and which is also resulting in the production. On the home front side, the government is now and paying the money to the households, and households are also paying taxes. So as a result, this cycle is complete, and households have got spending capability. As a result, both discretionary spending as well as non-discretionary spending is taking place, which is again contributing to the business. And they are also becoming part of the domestic demand recoveries and domestic global demand recoveries. As a result, there are import and export which are also being fed. So we are now coming slowly from the cross situation to the right situation. The question is it happening in all sectors, or is it happening only in certain sector, or is it happening into particular sector in agriculture or manufacturing? Where do we make our headway so that this curve what we have shown becomes a more and more potent in terms of improving the businesses, and that will lead to the economic growth. So one of the things when we were talking in NITI Aayog and also with the government, every famous economist world over came up with the idea that one of the major factors which can improve the economy is the investment in the infrastructure development. And everybody said that in this infrastructure development has to be technology based. It cannot be done with the older kind of technologies to make use of future technologies. So infrastructure acts as a seed project for our future economy. It will act as a driver of economic momentum, which will both elevate companies and help them cope with challenges related to transformation and upgrading. Infrastructure development can be achieved only through perseverance and endurance. New development should demonstrate the power of combining the improvisation, swift coordination with the speedy action of public and private institutions to provide technical know-how tailored to local conditions. Mind this word, local conditions. We have to make sure that our technical know-how is tailored towards in the local condition. Then only the Atmanirbharta will also come. By 2030, every organization will be technology organization, and as such, businesses need to start thinking today about how to future-proof their infrastructure and workforce. You have already seen the hybrid system already evolved with the digital technologies playing a major role. Work from home, offices are not being occupied fully. As a result, you are in a position to use technology for doing the same job what you are doing by moving into the physical space. So these are the technology inputs which are going to improve the working of the system. The new technology will offer a path to push the intelligence of the digital world out into the physical one. In the agriculture industry, robots and drones have already improved efficiency and helped address labor shortages, taking care of harvesting plants, collecting on-site data, and increasing crop yields. The 5G arrival is enabling a new frontier in the Internet of Things. In the health industry, 5G devices are already being developed to enable remote surgery, which would allow for high specialized training for the next generation of doctors. The expansion will probably previously inaccessible healthcare to primary health centers by the virtue of telemedicine will take place. This is the kind of infrastructure which will improve the situation. By 2030, personalized integrated artificial intelligence, what we call as the AI assistants, will go well beyond what assistants can do now, and they will take care of us in predictive and automated ways. This technology base, if we start employing in this normal, it will strengthen us in terms of immediate returns, and as well as strengthen us in terms of future growth of economy. Learning technologies will make individual skills and competencies searchable, and organization will pursue the best talent for discrete tasks. So the mantra is build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. And that will become the part of the economic growth. Once the acute phase of the COVID-19 crisis is over, governments will need future investments in infrastructure more than ever to accelerate economic recovery, create jobs, reduce poverty, and stimulate what we call as the productive investments. Now, how do we reimagine in this our post-COVID and the way the technology is coming? How do we reimagine the advanced industry sector? In the new normal, we have to be very careful about the workplace safety, so health monitoring, modified spaces, a phased return of the manpower, as mentioned, to the hybrid working, enhanced sanitation. These are going to be our workplace safety features which have to be put in place. We have to build resilience in operation and the supply chain. We have seen the kind of disruption we faced during this pandemic. We found that even for our medicines, our supply chain from China for the API and the intermediates got affected. And our pharma industry suffered for some time because of the break in supply chain. I think we have to have much more resilience in operations and supply chain. For that, we should have improved contingency planning, and we should have a forecasting efforts. That should be important. Address near-term cash management challenges, because all of us know that liquidity has been a problem. Industries have run out of cash, and so we have to see how to do our cash management. And this is an opportunity when we can look at switch over to Industry 4.0, because that is going to give us more productivity and efficiency. So productivity should come in force, virtual reality should come in force. Manufacturing should follow more and more 3D printing and additive manufacturing. We should develop the digital twins in the manufacturing and use robotics and process automation as much as possible to improve the efficiency and productivity, and not for causing unemployment, but basically it is for safe operation, high efficient operation, and so on. This is the kind of reimagining of the industrial sector has to be taken. If you have to look at customer needs and the revival of Make in India, the Make in India in the post-lockdown phase, how do we revive it? For that, we have to look at change in consumer behavior due to the fear of contracting infection and higher risk aversion due to economic distress. The consumer is not going to take too much of risk. They are not going to make investment. So that has to be taken into account. Mandatory social distancing norms, I mentioned to you. Supply chain disruption, again, we have to cater for that. And volatility in the prices of commodities, redefining the working capital requirement. And this is another area which has to be taken care of while in the new normal. These are some of the features which will make happen. For this, how the companies can reshape result and plan for COVID-19 recovery. There are 4 steps that can be taken. First step is, just 1 minute. There is some problem. The first suggestion is that put people safety first, initiate, expand flexible work arrangements, provide infection protections for on-site workers, issue regular, transparent communication that reassures employees and align with current government policies. Second step is communicate with stakeholders. Keep customers apprised of impacts to produce or service delivery. Develop communication plans that balance caution with a business as usual mindset. Stay in contact with suppliers regarding ability to deliver goods and services, because that is the way you can have your supply chain. Review terms and conditions on loans and contracts with creditors and investors, and consult legal teams for advice on potential liabilities with governments and regulators. Third one is reshape strategy to maintain business continuity. Very important. Your business continuity planning, ECP as we call it, it is a very important part. Evaluate short-term liquidity. Assess financial and operation risk and respond quickly. Consider alternative supply chain options. Don't link only on one side. In fact, I find a large number of industries got so much hooked on to Chinese supplies that they became really into a lockdown situation because Chinese supplies were not coming. And they had no alternate paths, and it took some time for them to energize the alternate routes. So we have to make sure that we have alternate options for supply chain. Determine how the crisis affects business and business funds, monitor domestic and foreign government initiative support. This is what we need to do in the real sense. Fourth one is, of course, we have to see that build resilience to prepare for recovery. I mentioned to you, unless we have resilience, we will be suffering again. And for this, execute revised strategies and continue to monitor the situation. The review and renew the BCPs, the business continuity plans. If you don't regularly review them, then you have serious problems. Make decisions and take actions during the crisis with recovery in the mind. And reset business assumptions that underpin the supply chain. Reevaluate and recalibrate how to seize the opportunities China offers. We have to see now in a modified form. There are certain suggestions we have for rethinking and re-examining a new paradigm for corporates. In this environment, corporates can and must take decisive action that can help mitigate the short and long-term risk. The key to the success is the ability to gather accurate data, analyze thoroughly, and move forward quickly to gain capital clarity. Corporate needs to secure and rethink the supply chain. The global supply chain is under duress. In the unprecedented environment, corporates must re-examine their supply chain for immediate potential. They must create a new framework around how they will adapt long-term to mitigate the impact of future black swan event. Ensure availability of approved lines of credit. This is another area which needs to be focused. Need to communicate with their banking partners to make sure that the lines of credit that were approved a few months ago are still viable and available at the same terms. They should not get changed. Re-examine all credit terms. We expect to see the industry moving rapidly, what we call as in the short term, to a preferred cash-only model. I sell the goods, I get the cash, or I get the cash and then ship the goods. Right now, liquidity, that is cash, is king, and credit terms are increasingly stringent. Large corporates need to ensure that the credit terms they have with their suppliers are built in a way that does not fold the business. Revisit capital investment plans. In today's environment, it is all about conserving cash. Corporates need to aggressively reevaluate, prioritize, and place on hold all their investment and market expansion plans. Shift away from the fixed costs for added liquidity. Corporates should reduce fixed costs, including moving them to variable model and such as outsourcing non-core activities. This is what they should do. Another one is improve cash flow by extending payables and expediting receivables. Corporates need to look at extending payables intelligently. They must take a holistic approach and consider both the distribution function as well as supply functions. Need to identify and act on opportunities to accelerate better, manage their receivables for improved cash flow. They have to tighten inventory management. This must be a top priority. And explore alternate supply chain financing. Corporate must speak with their banking partners and understand the options available to them under supplier or dealer financing programs. Now I will talk about what strategy each sector should have. I picked up only a couple of them. One of them is, of course, agriculture. The potential agriculture solutions are that we should go for farm mechanization and what we call a functional functions as associated service FAS as we call it, agri fintech solutions, agri marketplace, farm management information system. The kind of problems what we are having with the farmers, actually it is a waste of effort by the farmers right now. They are not seeing the actual advantage what they have in the new laws, which will give them the biggest freedom to bring their product into the market at the spot price that they would like to sell, and free them from the clutches of these adatiyas and all the middlemen and so on. The stress sector in this is labor for both planting and harvesting is not available. Inputs purchase and inputs due to lockdown is a problem, and information communication and advisory is also a problem because of this. So we have to do potential solution in that. Another agri-tech solution is primary storage solutions, primary process solutions, farm to fork delivery. That is what we should do. We should not only produce, but we should convert the produce into usable items and try food processing and things like that, and finally sell the product to the household. So farm to fork delivery should be your motto. Stress sectors in this are storage and warehousing are is a problem. Primary processing capability is a problem. Reaching markets, consumption centers is a problem in this in the present scenario. So we need to really look at them in a modified form. We have, and the other sector is integrating the logistics for agri, hyper-local farming, and food traceability solutions. Here, agri-logistics is a problem today because of the boundary problems. Distance between production and consumption center is a problem. It is under stress. And safe and improved quality food is again under stress today. So these are the three possible solutions we should follow for the agri-sector. The healthcare in the present COVID situation has to focus on three things. One is accessibility for health, affordability for the health, and the quality. If you see accessibility, now we have already seen the advent of telemedicine, which is bringing care closer to the patient, and increased adoption of the remote patient monitoring systems. There are many hospitals today where you can book your appointment with a doctor and you can be on a video conference and have yourself monitored for your disease. So there's a very good system is emerging. Point of care diagnostics, rapid diagnosis, treatment of diseases, lower cost and convenience for the patients. This is a part of the health policy. What are doing? We have seen in India today, the handling of the pandemic in India has been probably one of the best. The way we have done, that's why we had the minimum deaths, we had the fastest recoveries, and we were able to manage the crisis much better than large number of the developed nations, despite the fact that we have a larger population and a larger area to cover. So accessibility has been good due to the policies as well as due to technologies. Quality, of course, patient education and awareness is very important. This has also been done in this pandemic situation where the awareness was spread by all, and the media played a major role in that, where awareness about the disease, online health contact, all that was possible. Increased health awareness to the use of wearables and all was created. Affordability has three sectors like health management enablers, like democratize and empower health seekers. Lower the cost of care by avoiding hospitalization. This should be our another strategy. Affordable medical devices, big emphasis on innovation and low cost and medical devices we should have. Then support mass screening and epidemiological programs, which is what we are doing today. Of course, many people have said that India has not done that much of screening and testing, but I think whatever we have done has been adequate to meet the challenges what we face. But we can do much better now. Automation of supply chain to create efficiencies across the healthcare ecosystem. That's the new normal which we have. FDI, you mentioned about $500 billion and things like that, but I think there's a need for us to start looking at FDI in a little more rigorous manner, because this is an opportunity for people to come and invest in India. Post-COVID-19, the GVC shift from China, the value chain from China, attract investment from Japan, USA, European countries. So this is an opportunity for India. Sector-specific measures and incentives are to be provided to improve the competitiveness, and then only the FDI will flow. Single window clearance for all the proposals, foreign and domestic investors, will enable larger inflows in the country. Time-bound disposal of foreign investment applications. This is doing business and doing single window. There has been a major initiative taken by the government of India. Still, overall, we need to make a lot of progress as far as ease of doing business is concerned and clearances of the applications and things like that is concerned. And the government of India has formed a specific task team to make sure that during this period, all the companies which are trying to shift from China to our country are provided with the basic inputs and also the clearance mechanisms at the earliest. So this is improving the situation. Fast tracking foreign trade arrangements with major economies, especially USA. Aligning foreign investment towards domestic and export market. Assure of long-term policy predictability. In fact, one of the reasons why many times the FDI suffered is because they felt that our policies are not long-term and predictability is poor. And this government has been able to bring in that kind of a focus much better. Single body for hand-holding investors. This is the effort which we are trying to do now. Ease of doing business for domestic investors. Already there has been tremendous improvement in this area. Removing inverted duty structure. In many sectors, the inverted duty structure has been removed. I think much more is required to be done. Foreign investment limit on public sector banks increased to 49%. Banking companies Acts 19 and transfer of undertakings Acts 1970-80. FDI in multi-band for products permitted. So these are some of the things which will certainly improve the FDI, and that's an opportunity because of the GVC changing. So we have to cash on it through efficiency and competitiveness. There are certain issues which are related to the foreign policy, which can also make a difference. For example, resurrection of Indian rupee in the region. Trade in rupees, lower transaction costs, home grown fintech. Building our capital markets include companies in other South Asian countries initially and broader reach, both equity and debt capital markets. Bilateral strategic deepening with technology manufacturing investment from Japan, South Korea, semiconductor fabs, displays, fibers, lasers, and others, and including 5G equipment. All that if we can bring in as part of this, it will improve the kind of economic condition in our country. The sectorial growth strategy is that machinery and manufacturing, if you take equipment, machinery to be manufactured indigenously with focus on Industry 4.0. Raw material sourcing from non-Chinese companies. This should be our strategy. Automobiles, local manufacturing, BS6 compliant components and drive chain for EVs and hybrid vehicles we should emphasize. Alternative technologies for lithium-ion battery. We know that lithium is a major problem, cobalt is a problem. So while certainly we should go ahead with the lithium-ion battery as it is being done in the EV program, but there is a need for us to go for alternative chemistries like sodium-ion batteries, aluminum-ion batteries, sodium-sulfur batteries, and so on. Textiles, industry-friendly policies promoting synthetic textiles, technical textiles, eco-friendly dyes, weaving and processing industry, and development of cost-effective test equipment for technical textiles. This should be our priority. Agriculture focus on biofortification and nutrition enhancement of foods. Restoration of the degraded soils and optimization of nutrient use efficiency by use of sensor-based technologies. I mentioned to you that technology is going to play a major role both in infrastructure and agriculture. Agriculture machinery to be developed indigenously. Rapid detection kits for diagnosis, animal diseases, and management of zoonotic diseases to check epidemics. Use of satellite imagery for identification of pests, disease, and management through computer analysis using data analysis. Promotion of startups on ICT use for supporting agriculture practices and also supply chain management. There are some takeaways from whatever has been done. Digital technology is already transforming the economy in profound way in some areas such as e-commerce and digital finance. Digital economy played an important role of macroeconomic stabilizer during the COVID-19. And the value of the contact free transaction together with process of fourth industrial revolution, the new infrastructure investment, construction of the 5G network, and the rolling out of the central bank digital currency, electronic payment will further boost the digital economy in this area. The digital economy activities also created some new problems highlighted by data inequality issues, the data privacy issues, cyber security issues, intellectual property rights issues, and discouraging the monopolies. So some of these things, I think digital is making a major difference. See, we find internationally that we are going to have greenhouse gas emissions come down. We are also following what is called the Sustainability Development Program. So our economic recovery has to be green. And in that sense, we have to do certain things and all the right things are one which are giving there to be done, and the cross things are not to be done. For example, in industry, support uptake of efficient appliances, lighting, and digital devices. Low carbon technology R&D and pilot projects and like steel and cement. We should not go back to climate measures and regulation. Please roll back. People will say industry levy for supporting renewable energy and all that. Support for industry without all this should not happen. We should not support an industry without conditions for zero emission and tradition. If you take energy and electricity, direct support for zero emissions technologies and infrastructure, fiscal reform on fossil fuel subsidies, and others we should not support. If you take aviation, support for industry, bail out and accelerate R&D efforts. You should go back to recalibrate Corsia, that is the pollution what the aircraft is doing. We should not go back to that. In the building, support for energy efficient retrofits for existing buildings, support for accelerated construction of low and zero energy buildings. That is what we should do. In the case of land use and environment protection, large-scale landscape restoration and reforestation efforts should be done. And transport and mobility, we should go for financial incentives for zero emission vehicles, direct investment in the low carbon public transport systems, and so on. R&D and innovation for me are very important. We cannot remain isolated and carry on any economy without the research and development and innovation. Globally, our science and technology sector has emerged as one of the major drivers of socio-economic development. Thus, it could play a major role in achieving India's development goals. India's strength is because we have large demographic dividend, we have a strong IT and ITES sector, we have a vibrant startup ecosystem. Being a fast-growing economy, India has noticed an increase in the demand for scientific inputs to solve various problems in socio-economic, industrial, and strategic domains. So we have, in order to elevate its global prominence, it is crucial for India to convert those underlying challenges into opportunities. That is what we should do. And for that, we should take a stock of what we did during the pandemic and what more could be done. In the pandemic, we realized that there was delay in setting up test centers and lack of inventory of test kits. By and large, our industry was deficient due to import from foreign countries. I'll give an example. We had a situation that we were not manufacturing any ventilators. And we found that the technology which was developed by DRDO in 2006, when I was a scientific advisor, not even scientific, I was one of the senior scientists, given to an industry, that industry has sold it to another industry, and that industry was manufacturing items only for export, with supply chain from China and some European countries. Supply chain got disturbed, that industry was not able to supply. So we started working with DRDO labs and started reviving that kind, and that's how the ventilators could be manufactured. Now, this kind of a situation can be avoided if we have a proper system of research and development in a continued manner. Indian institutions had some ready-made solutions, but proof of concept or technology readiness levels was only TRL 3 and 4. This will require time and cost, and to take it to mass production level. This is the serious weakness of our R&D system, that we don't take the technology to a maturity level from where it can be launched into manufacturing. The regulatory system to introduce new drugs, vaccines, equipment in the system is not able to re-engineer itself to accelerate the process, to cut down delays. Most of the time, the similarity principle is also not followed. This needs revamp and correction. Private companies coming out with solutions for specific problems have serious problems of getting a product accepted by the government. Hence, in our system, post-COVID, certain modifications are required for meeting these situations. What are the challenges we have in the R&D sector? Major challenges in Indian R&D is low expenditure, suboptimal research infrastructure, dearth of private R&D investment, and missing linkage between industry and academia. And our R&D, our industry, our complete what we call as a supply chain is highly import dependent of Indian of stringent regulatory mechanisms for introduction of novel drugs, inability of scientific institutions to deliver solutions do not go beyond the proof of concept, rigorous approval process. Some of these I have mentioned already. Now, for this, certain reforms are suggested, like development of end-to-end technological solutions. We should promote R&D on mission mode. We should not do it on a bits and pieces. We should do fast tracking of prototype and also get into clinical trials of medicines and medical devices as in a fast mode. Increasing the number of full-time researchers, strengthen the research translation in the R&D ecosystem. Promote India as a global R&D hub, set up a seed fund and give grants to startup as effective initiative to R&D efforts into products. FDI policy to be modified and made attractive and proactive to attract companies willing to pull out from China to set up base in India. I mentioned to you. Initiate a mission program aimed at supporting rapid vaccine development. India has done very well in this area. Introducing technology-enabled remote healthcare in public and private centers and hospitals. Revise expenditure regulations of the corporate social responsibility to qualify funding in-house R&D projects. Low interest rates in the loans provided to the companies for PPP in R&D. Significant share of R&D funding should be devoted to industry R&D. Government should set up R&D parks and allow companies to develop R&D centers, lab, for which the companies may be incentivized in utility services. You can provide them some incentives on electricity, water, land, and so on. Development of low-cost drones and robots should be our priority. Extend tax breaks to cover the R&D expenses of the Indian companies outside India. Develop Indian standards for certifying the products. Upgrade testing labs to bring them at global standards. To work on India-centric epidemic preparedness through the development of vaccines. Building vibrant electronic device manufacturing ecosystem. There are a number of areas where we can give priority for R&D, medical devices, e-commerce, agriculture, for example, genetically edited crops, precision agriculture, cold storage systems, technical textiles, biotechnology like new vaccines, drugs, and energy using fuel cells, hydrogen economy, e-mobility, and so on. Drug manufacturing, we suffer heavily due to the non-supply of active pharmaceutical ingredients from China, and as a result, our pharma industry was suffering during this COVID time. So there has to be a major effort now to manufacture these APIs. For Government of India an initiative to support API manufacturing in the country and revive the old systems which were already in existence. Desalination water is going to be a major problem. So desalination should be our priority. Electric vehicles should be our priority. Cyber security should be our priorities, and so on. So what we are saying is post-COVID, we should look at our science, technology, and innovation policy and what should be its response to the COVID-19 crisis. During the crisis, support research and development activities are part of the emergency measures and of recovery packages. Priority should be given to measures such as grants of R&D carried out by academic or public institutions as well as by the private on vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics to treat or prevent the spread of the coronavirus, particularly those that focus on the specific needs of developing countries. Grants for preparedness, response, and prevention research with particular emphasis on digital technologies. Prioritize procurement for health system infrastructure, labs, equipment, and supplies from firms with a stronger commitment to innovation. And emergency loans to firms conducting R&D relevant to COVID-19 and that were financially hit by the crisis. This should be our part of the policy. After the crisis, revisit and strengthen the budgetary commitments to support R&D. Support a systems approach to policy making that includes natural sciences, engineering, and social sciences. ensure international cooperation and coordinated policy responses. The sum of the isolated efforts by national governments provides much inferior outcomes than the international collaboration. We should promote that. Rural economy is something which we have to look at very, very seriously because it will make a tremendous impact, and there's one area where we have to pay our attention. For that, we have to expand NREGA and fund it liberally. Around 1/3 of the farms in India are essentially unviable from an investment because they are small holdings. You are aware of that. And marginal farmers and agricultural labor may produce enough for subsistence, dependent on wage labor. They will hence need a safety net to survive the economic crisis during the pandemic. The primary instrument is Manrega, which should be liberally funded in the coming year. Money in the hands of people will also is for demand, foremost of which will be demand, which in turn will incentivize agriculture production. And we should provide finance directly to the farmers, which anyway being done today. India is the government delivers finance directly to the farmers today. We are seeing that there is happening influx of surplus labor in rural areas. In already surplus labor situation will create more unemployment, and the only way that these people can be absorbed productively is through a expanded NREGA expansion and increased investment on the farm. That is what we should do as far as first part. Explore export progressively. We should try to see if we can do export of our agricultural products. The advantage is, while India has had COVID, but fortunately our agriculture, our villages were not that much seriously affected. So our recovery in the agriculture sector is going to be faster than compared to the European countries and so on. So India has been more fortunate in this respect. So this could be an opportunity for India to tap the world food market as a supplier. And for this, we will need to massively upgrade our agricultural infrastructure. A great deal of work needs to be done with respect to technology, meeting global standards, and controlling the residue levels. And fourth one is use the surplus labor to build rural infrastructure. It is going to take a fair amount of time before industries like real estate, tourism, and restaurants and the rest of the great service industry stabilizes. This means that much of the migrant labor, which is usually employed in these in the urban areas, will remain in their villages for at least next 18 to 24 months. This supply of labor in rural areas should be seen as an opportunity. The time has come to use these opportunities to build other physical infrastructure, ICT sectors, and most importantly, primary health infrastructure, which does not exist in most parts of the central and northern India. We should use the returning labor and public money to do this. And if cannot be about attracting private investment at this stage, because companies will not be will be focused on trying to recoup the significant losses incurred due to the lockdown, and they are unlikely to be invested in agriculture transformation. This has to be a public-led investment. If we do that, we can make use of this particular labor force which is available, provide them employment, and upgrade our rural infrastructure. Create an enabling policy environment. The final and the most important step in reviving the rural economy is that we should take a policy initiative and an integrated policy package which looks at the entire rural situation holistically. While agriculture is certainly the primary engine of rural economy, we also need to look at non-farm sector. For example, the handlooms, the food processing, the handicrafts, rural SMEs, to unlock potential and employment and generation. A number of steps such as ensuring credit access, rebuilding supply chains, critical infrastructure, and incentivizing marketing chains to source from the rural India to be initiated. Above all, recognizing the centrality of rural economy in leading the country back to sustainable growth is the first step towards creating a new normal. That is what we should do. So there are 7 steps that are important. We have to embrace the new normal. Shift towards localization. Digital becomes a next real push. Cash is king for business, and move towards variable cost models. building sensing and control power tower capabilities. Supply chain resilience is key, and building the agility. This is what we have to do. One by one, is expected to lead a greater localization of supply chain. Digital gets a real push. This will change the way we work with far-reaching implications, business to business, business to customer, services, commercial, real estate, e-commerce. Cash is king for business. Crisis has reiterated it is important to be financially prudent and conserve cash. Move towards variable cost models. I mentioned this earlier. Building sensing and control tower capabilities. Alternate data can offer quick insights that traditional approaches and tools cannot offer. For instance, analytics companies are now maintaining alternative strategies such as traffic jams, food order, etc., to track COVID-19 shock. Supply chain resilience is the key, and building agility is another major area which we have to focus on. Because of the SDG and because of the green economy, we have to focus on a resilient circular economy. A resilient circular economy is identifying opportunities, keeping a clear sense of direction, and fostering a strong private collaboration will help usher in redefined growth towards next wave of prosperity. Global refurbished medical devices market is expected to grow by almost 10% a year between 2020 and 2025. This should be our focus. Ventilator makers to make service manuals and repair related resource available, cost reduction implications, designing both tooling and products to repurposable and versatile. Explore the potential of large-scale investment in regenerative, peri-urban production together with digital-enabled precision agriculture. Regenerative agriculture as climate crisis mitigation arsenal, and designing cities for alternative urban transport solutions. Indian government step up to address the most pressing issues, setting a clear direction and enabling private sector circular innovation to reach scale, where allow us to combine economic regeneration, better societal outcomes, and climate ambitions. There are certain policy suggestions I have to make, and these are related to financial stability. For example, if you are looking at sustainable market, so sustain market confidence and ensure adequate liquidity. While micro-financial positions remain sound, policymakers should remain vigilant against financial market distress and tightening liquidity conditions. This is what the finance ministry has to look at. To strengthen regional financial cooperation to avoid a financial crisis and safeguard financial stability, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic provides an opportunity for regional finance cooperation and to regain reform momentum and enhance financial safety nets. High and rising NPLs, non-productive loans, require early and preemptive measures, and develop and nurture vibrant local currency bond markets. The region needs to be broadened with deepened local currency markets to help mobilize financial resources to combat COVID-19. Then economic policies to support a robust, inclusive, and resilient recovery. Fiscal spending and expansion in monetary policy during this is important. During the pandemic-induced economic slowdown, heightened uncertainty debtors investment. So this has to be kept in mind and how it has to be done. We should support MSMEs and preserve jobs. Waiver tax, relaxed financial constraints, MSMEs that are cutting cash flows, offer incentives for them to keep their payrolls going. Tax cut on wages and wage subsidies can also play an important role. Scale up public investment. High quantity investment can help create and increase productivity and increase the private sector to invest. Encourage the private sector to invest. Public investment is urgent in some sectors such as health, schools, safe transportation, resilience, and digital infrastructure. Strengthen social protections. Socially and economically vulnerable groups falling through the cracks. So government should provide immediate reliefs and effective delivery and develop long-term plan for strong social safety nets. Economic recovery measures post COVID-19, what India has done, many of you are aware of them. I thought I'll just highlight major rate cuts for the RBI, such as policy, lending rates, cash reserve ratio, and liquidity coverage ratio for providing cheaper cash to the banks have been implemented. Loans freeze for a period of 3 months on term loans has been permitted. Provision of special windows for corporate borrowers and rural industries have been created. To infuse more money into the monetary systems, RBI has been injecting additional liquidity in the banking system to keep bond yields down. To attract foreign investors and to secure access to global indexes, has opened up a wide range of its sovereign bond markets to overseas investors. To ease the fiscal deficit of state governments, state administrators have been permitted to borrow more for the present year. To stabilize the capital market, all capital and debt market services have been exempted from the lockdown. These are what the Indian government has done. But the World Economic Forum also has made certain recommendations, and I thought I should share this with you. And it says, ensure public for priorities for economic transformation are ensure public institutions embed strong governance principles and long-term vision and build trust by serving their countries. Upgrade infrastructure to accelerate the energy transition and broaden access to electricity and ICT. I think we are doing a good way in this area. Shift to more progressive taxation, rethinking how corporations, wealth and labor are taxed nationally and in an international cooperative framework. Again, we have also got a focus in that. Update education curricula and expand investment in skills needed and markets of tomorrow. I think this is where our investments are also going. Rethink labor laws and social protection for the new economy and the new needs for the workforce. I think this is one area where we are not doing enough. I think we have to take a serious look at this particular part. Expand elder care, child care and healthcare infrastructure, access and innovation for the benefit of people and the economy. Increase incentives to direct financial resources towards what we call as local, towards long-term investment, strengthen stability, and expand inclusion. Rethink complete competition and antitrust frameworks needed in the fourth industrial revolution. And what we're ensuring market access both locally and internationally. Facilitate the creation of markets of tomorrow, especially in areas that public-private collaboration. Incentivize firms to embrace diversity, incentivize and expand patient investment in research, innovation, invention that can create new markets for tomorrow. I think we are also doing significantly in most of these areas, but if you, and I'm sure the suggestions from the World Economic Forum will go a long way for our industry also to some of them in their businesses. So what are the opportunities and way ahead? I would say if we do not have the tools of tomorrow, we must have the leadership of today. That is what the saying is. The resilience of the country's industry and its ability to perform and adjust to the shocks hinges on its diverse, dynamic, innovative, and collaborative capacity, which emerges from its industrial commons. A more resource-efficient circular manufacturing model needs to be to replace the current linear production systems, which are highly wasteful, polluting, by enhancing the symbiotic relationship between consumption and production cycles to achieve sustainable production and consumption. Local and regional manufacturing networks, spatial organization of manufacturing into eco-industrial park, green scalable digital technologies and IoT and policy frameworks supported by global policy commitments can act as a catalyst to spur the transition. The new normal requires to rethink the way we produce and consume and to shed more light on manufacturing and its role in resilient, diverse economies. In fact, symbiotic relationship between consumption and production cycles will be key to a sustainable future. A paradigm of co-evaluation where research, design, development, and manufacturing are closely knitted into innovative networks that understand local needs, are mindful of ecosystem boundaries. Nurture high-value processes and innovation within local networks and minimizing negative externalities through socio-technological innovation. New forms of dynamic license between universities and research centers, but also across traditional sector boundaries, are prompting the emergence of new forms of demand-led innovation. That is what is happening. So for India, the way forward is Unfortunately, India may well have missed the bus in many of the technologies in which US, Europe, and China have established perhaps insurmountable. Yet, self-reliant capabilities in electric and fuel cell vehicles, electricity storage systems, solar cells and modules, aircrafts including UAVs, artificial intelligence, robotics and automation, biotech, pharma, and others are well within our reach. Large-scale concentrated endeavors would, however, be required since self-reliance will not happen by itself. State-funded R&D, including basic research by PSUs and research institutions and universities, need to be scaled up significantly, well above the dismal 1% of our GDP currently. It has to go up. Upgraded and reoriented PSU will also be crucial given their distinctive place in the ecosystem. Private sector delivery-oriented R&D could also support meaningful participation in manufacturing at appropriate levels of supply chain. Finally, India's meager public expenditure on education needs to be substantially ramped up as against current trends of privatization, which would only shrink access, including in skill development. No country has achieved self-reliance without mass quality, and that's most important. The scale is very important. If India has to really compete in the near future or even in the distant future, I think the scale of operations of our industries has to go up. Then only we will be competitive. Circular economy, good skills, adopting the new technologies, and also taking a sustained policy framework for ensuring that we have a continuity in our thinking, both in terms of supply, investment, and supply and consumption production. That will only attract the FDIs better efficiency in our ease of doing business, and many of these factors will certainly help us to leap forward and go back to the kind of economies growth which we are having about 2 years back. And I'm sure that we will, while most of the world will follow the U-shaped economy, probably we will be closer to V, provided we take some of the suggestions which have been made by the World Economic Forums, what has been made by many economists, and also we have a sustained leadership businesses at various levels, whether they are MSMEs, whether they are corporates, or they are rural economy. I think leadership will make it all the difference. And with these few words, I would like to say that the Chamber of Commerce will be able to make use of some of the ideas that have come out from various economists in running their own businesses and also promoting business across all sectors and making our economy sound and sustainable. Thank you very much for listening to me peacefully. Thank you. I hope my talk would have made some difference. And thank you once again.
Dr. Saraswat, I have, first of all, I would like to thank you for such a detailed presentation which covered so many facets about how we should think as businessmen and industrialists. And I think it was extremely enlightening. So to begin with, may I request that if you could get a copy of the presentation to share with our members, because this is a lot to absorb within a span of 1 hour. So if it's possible, we would love to have a copy of the presentation, and that could be made available to all our members.
We'll send it to you. No problem.
Thank you. Secondly, you raised a few points, and I would like to touch upon a couple of points before opening up the floor to more questions. But one very, very important point that you raised about is indigenization of technology, even if you're bringing it from a Western country or from another market. So I would like you to give us some input or your insight on how MSMEs can work towards effective indigenization, given that they always have a limitation on the funding availability that is available to them. So on that front, if you could share some insights, it will be very helpful.
I can only tell you that the best way I have found that MSMEs can really make progress and also go from a small size company to a large size company is to follow the kind of practices which I used during my tenure as a scientist and also as a scientific advisor when I was in DRDO. Between 1995, why 95, even 1989, till about 2009, in those maybe 20 odd years, we were in a position to support more than about 80 industries, MSMEs, industries which had their turnover less than 2 crores, by hand-holding in various technology domains, supporting them with the technology, supporting with the process engineering, supporting them with the kind of technical know-how which was needed, and bringing them in close collaboration with the demands of the R&D system in the country. All the DRDO labs were working with these laboratories. As a result, in those 20 years, many of them are today 500 crore industry. So this is the kind of growth. Working with technology houses is one of the things which the MSME should do. Number two, I agree with you that you have a major problem of
Sir, I think we've not able to hear you right now.
project marketability and so on. So it is important that with the R&D institutions, with the universities, with the other technology providers, you develop a very strong product mix and the technology roadmap, which will enable you to get the funds from the some banking institutions and the funding institutions and even investors to come forward. Today, if you will notice, in the service sector, particularly technology segment, large number of startups are getting funding from the venture capitalists. All these software startups, even few lakhs to even few crores. In fact, about 18 companies have become unicorn now. Those who started like this. You should take lesson from them. Why did it happen? Because they had a very solid technology roadmap, which attracted the investors to invest in that. I think our MSMEs also have to do a similar exercise. Work with the research institution, work with the technology providers, and work with a solid, well-designed technology development and production roadmap for attractive funding, and also look at the market, what the market needs. For example, today in the electronics segment, if you see all the electronics MSMEs, I will tell you. Today we have all the education is taking place remotely. All our children today are working using the laptops and the tablets and other systems which are coming from China. Millions of children today need this particular device. And in India, we have the capability to manufacture all of them using the indigenous technology. MSMEs can certainly play a major role, either in collaboration or otherwise, and start producing them indigenously. There are at least 400 to 500 electronics industries in the country, in the MSME sector, who can do this job. You have to take initiative. Data centers in this country are going to be about 1 lakh data centers will be opened up in the next 5 years to 10 years because of the IoT and because of the digital revolution. Each data center uses more than 2 data servers. All servers are imported today. These electronics companies can start manufacturing servers in the country, and that's a market. So we have to do market research. We have to develop a technology roadmap and work with the R&D institutions and university, and then you will have venture capitalists and the banks to support. That's how the MSMEs can grow in this country. Of course, quality is important, scale is important.
Sir, a follow-up question which has come from one of our members is that, you mentioned about partnering with research institutes, and there are a lot of very, very high, highly credible research institutes in the country. But, experience of some of us has been that it is not very easy for a small MSME to get into understanding with a research institute to develop a particular technology. So given that you are in a very unique position of being at NITI Aayog and having understood technology and business so closely, is there a way by which commercialization of technology which is there in the IITs, in the CMERIs and all the other such institutes can actually be commercialized, and there is a easy way for MSME to tap into it. Because if we see historically, a lot of the large industrial houses today also have benefited from similar institutes in the past. But I think there is still a need for some kind of a bridge between the MSME and the institutes to able to actually harness the potential.
Now, I agree with you. There used to be a gap in this, but many of the research institutions like DRDO, the Department of Space, Department of Atomic Energy, have opened up what is called the value addition centers. They call them the technology transfer and value addition centers, who are available today for doing hand holding of the MSMEs with the technology which is incubated in the R&D institution to what is called productionize it in the MSME environment. So these agencies should be made use of. And in the defense, they have started what is called IDX, which is the department to provide that kind of a support to MSME to translate the technology from R&D into the production setup of the MSME. I think some of these initiatives which have been taken, taken up in the last couple of years, will go a long way in solving this purpose.
So, actually, sir, we also have a couple of more questions, but given that we are already out of time.
And one assurance I can give you,
Yes,
any
sir.
MSME, if he is finding any difficulty in absorbing technology from a research institution or any university or any place, and please feel free to write to me. I will create a mechanism for you to get that problem solved. This has been my venture being in NITI Aayog. I've had a number of agencies in the past. I'm ready to do it for all those who are suffering from this syndrome.
Sir, I will get in touch with you personally because I would greatly benefit, and I will connect with you offline on your email ID with this for the same.
Sure.
Given that we've already run out of time, I would now request Mr. GL Goenka, who is the co-chair on Council for Capital Markets, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to me for selecting this purpose. And good afternoon, sir. After a very engaging and insightful discussion on strategy for economic growth in new normal, I take this opportunity to wholehearted thanks to our guest, Mr. V.K. Saraswat, member NITI Aayog, for gracing the webinar and enlightening us on the core issue regarding economic growth in new normal. We are grateful to you, sir, for shedding light on complex issues surrounding the economy. I sincerely thanks all the representatives of the press and electronic media for their kind presence and continued support to us. With these few words, I express my heartfelt thanks to the members of our chamber, friends, and business associates for their gracious presence at this section. I now propose a heartily vote of thanks for Dr. Mr. V.K. Saraswat and request you all to carry this with acclamation.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you.